So my name is Aljosa Pasic. I'm Technology Transfer Director in Atos Research Innovation. And today I divided this presentation in several parts. So first part, I will talk about what I call the innovation ecosystems. I will present a couple of examples. This is, I understand, ecosystems in very wide meaning of this of a word. So basically any constellation which is about sharing infrastructures and expertise, having technology transfer activities, but also supporting SMEs. And this is not something new. These are there have been entities for a very long time in member states, like Digital Catapult in UK, Competence Centrum in Germany, Dutch Smart Industry Field Labs. There are many other efforts examining the triple helix. So the university, industry, and government relationship and cooperation. There are mechanisms for enhancing the efficiency, etc. So again, this is not something new. Probably you know many of these innovation ecosystems, but I will briefly go through some of these, also mentioning public-private partnerships, factories of the future, EXO, Big Data Value Association, etc. And all these ecosystems also try to address communication, awareness of small firms, problems like poor visibility or funding opportunities, bureaucracy, all the barriers that small enterprises are facing, overlapping of responsibilities, entrepreneurship culture, etc. So then I move to the second part about roadmaps and what we mean by efficient innovation and how do we do it in Atos, how do we measure, how do we try to translate research results, convert in first in assets, and then something we call shuttle, which is a kind of incubator, internal incubator for more promising results. This is the part of the transforming, the main part of the presentation. The problem is obviously how to align these things. So there is a company portfolio, there is a strategy, and sometimes the research projects are not fully aligned in time and also in focus in topics. So I will give a couple of examples and conclude with, hopefully on time. Questions after this, you can ask questions. I think my colleagues, Maria and the other staff from the funding box, they will collect questions in the meantime through chats. So let's start with innovation ecosystems. As I said, this is a part that some of you will be familiar with. I'm not sure if you are familiar with Atos, so I will start with my own company. So we have a department which is called Atos Research Innovation, several research units. You can see here names of units, and also more information is available on our website. We are ranked as #1 in private for-profit companies in terms of EU funding, also in H2020, also but it was also in FP7. Etc., etc. So we have, but we are just part of the ecosystem, wider ecosystem in Atos, where we have in Atos also scientific community, which is not only Atos Research Innovation. We have expert community, which is also with practitioners and experts, consultants, so not necessarily scientists. We have other things like innovation workshops where we meet our clients and try to have kind of open innovation approach in these joint workshops with clients. We have a journey which is a kind of prediction for the next 2 years with the roadmaps that we also recommend to our clients, etc. So we have this full ecosystem in the company. We are a big company. We are 110,000 people. So and Atos Research Innovation is a very small part of it. So even if it sounds that we have a lot of research projects and we are many people, it is still the largest European IT company. So let me see this. If I can move this to the next slide. Let me talk a couple of more examples of what I call the ecosystem. Fireware is one that I'm quite familiar with because I was in the very first stage of fireware when it was still before fireware. It was a European technology platform called NESI. So I was in this stage of setting this platform. So it is an open initiative, but it is very much focused on producing what is called in fireware generic enablers, which are these pieces of reusable software components. And with the help of European Commission funding, it's developed in a very large community with many SMEs in different sectors. There is one specific project in the beginning of fireware, which is called FitMan, and that established something like Fit Fireware for Industry, and it was one of the first attempts to have reusable building blocks for industry, and these were called then specific enablers. I'm not sure that they are still valid or active. I listed them here in these slides, but most of these specific enablers are not used anymore or are out of date. So this technology changes rapidly, and I think this was a good example of ecosystem that was used by many small and medium enterprises to reduce overall cost of setting up solutions. So by reusing these components. But it was, in the meantime, it was replaced by many other components and also ecosystems that emerged. Another example is EIT Digital. I'm not sure how many participants in this webinar are familiar with this. There is acronym called KIC, Knowledge and Innovation Community. So EIT is a kind of organization set up by European Union. It was established on March in 2008 in Budapest, but it has under this headquarters, it has knowledge innovation communities. Two of these communities are of particular importance for today's webinar. I think EIT Manufacturing and EIT Digital. These are separated legal entities, and they have their programs and calls for innovation projects. They have a kind of entrepreneurial academy. So they are using this triple helix approach, where the university and local industry comes together in nodes. Several European nodes exist for both of these legal entities. I'm more familiar with EIT Digital. We have one node here in Madrid where Atos is participating. So again, this is a good example of ecosystem where reusing the resources of others, for example, for training, for courses, or in joint innovation with the small and medium enterprises, large and small enterprises. So this is a good example of ecosystem reducing the overall cost of implementation of assets or a company strategy. Another example, of course, I think everybody here should be familiar with the digital innovation hubs. Digital innovation hubs are supporting SMEs to speed up the digital transformation process. They're combining the infrastructure and expertise with the business creation expertise. Again, they are built in similar way on the notion of public-private partnerships, so having industry, academia, and support from the government, and addressing different needs as well of different type of stakeholders. There are many variations, so I wouldn't like really to go into detail, because this is I guess discussion. There was also a conference on this, or different variations of digital innovation hubs. And now there are these calls for pan-European digital innovation hubs, and we had European projects called MIDI. So you can go there. It's just finished last year. I think the final event was in December, and there was one website established, which is DIH for Industry. And in this project also we had partners, which they labeled them as a pan-European DIH networks. I mentioned EIT Digital, I mentioned Fireware, and there is another one which is a pan-European network, International Data Space Association. So there is a lot of information here on MIDI website and this new website of DIH for Industry. Another ecosystem, this is very specific for cybersecurity, and this is where I'm personally involved. So this is one of the 4 pilot projects for cybersecurity community in Europe. There is a regulation that established that will establish the European Cybersecurity Competence Center with a headquarters in Bucharest, in Romania. There will be, under that level, there will be a network of national nodes. So there will be one entity in each country, which is serving as a kind of national contact point, but also the part of this competence center. And then there is a big community. Currently, it is structured in these pilot projects, such as Concordia, around so around these, you can see in the website, around these 4 pillars, 4 projects, Sparta Eco Cybersecurity for Europe. And here we are also looking at approach. Me in particular, I'm innovation management manager in Concordia. I'm looking at approach how to decrease the cost while developing things together in an ecosystem. Again, here EIT Digital is one of the partners in this project. And then you have many others. So we have partnerships. You probably also heard about Made in Europe, which is one of the future partnerships. It is hopefully public-private partnership that will continue the work of factories of the future. There is then you have a Gaia X, which is initiatives mainly in a cloud area, but also tackling the data spaces and edge and other issues. There is ongoing work on partnership, joining several previous organizations in H2020. So the big data value organizations like robotics, they are now working on joint partnership for the Horizon Europe. So basically, what we will have in the Horizon Europe is co-founded European partnerships. We will have co-programmed European partnerships. I think this is part of the presentation that I took from somebody from European Commission. We have, again, there's some of these platforms that are more focusing on network and communication of community. Some of them are more focused on technology infrastructure. MindSphere from Siemens is an example of commercially supported technology infrastructure. And then we have some of them focusing more on data. Basically, it is. We should not think of it as being only technology or only networking and communication, but it is more about business model. We should think of it as a mean to reduce the cost, to interact, to create and exchange value. So this is somehow similar to roles that the other type of platforms have in software stack. But depending on specific type, the different roadmap and strategy can be chosen by the company, especially by a small and medium enterprise that might not have so much influence on platform governance, but can use the central infrastructure and reusable components, exchange value, and matching with other participants. So all of this stuff is, I think, probably very well known, but it is good to remember that this is about business model and reducing cost. It's not about fighting with each other. What is the definition of digital innovation hub, or what is the nature of this ecosystem, etc. Okay, so I move to the second part about the roadmaps to efficient innovation. So first, there are many type of roadmaps. We have many of these public-private partnerships have what is called strategic research agenda. We have best practices, guidelines, pathways. They are called in Connected Factories project, they call them pathways, for example. But basically, it is about structured overview of available technological approaches and digitalization of manufacturing. In this case, in particular case for I4MS project. usually look at the exploitation of European projects always in the same way. We have to explore opportunities and involve stakeholders, identify trends, assess market, especially desirability. These are three important words to remember: desirability, feasibility, and sustainability. So we always talk to our clients in Atos, and I mentioned innovation workshops, to that sometimes we have these projects that are triggered by academics or universities that are not necessarily desired by clients. So we need to validate this desirability, not only because Gartner or IDC or Forrester say so, but also because we have a client which is interested in a proof of concept or proof of value. So this is validation, the most important step probably, where the transferring of the technology from research projects through pilots, proof of concepts, and proof of value might enhance, complement Atos' portfolio. There are many other pathways and roadmaps. This is one from the MIDI project. So these are how they sketch a journey across the service areas. So divided in several stages: ecosystem, technology, business, skills, and data, and how this roadmap looks through stages from observation to adoption. It is one of the interesting approaches, and I also recommend to go to this website and to see how do they do it in this roadmap, or how it can be done in a typical European project. But there are many others. One, for example, that I mentioned previously was fireware, and here there was something called reference architecture that was used. Reference architecture is not exactly the roadmap, but again, it can help with building blocks, reusing building blocks, and targeting specific domains for these building blocks. EFRA, European Factories of Future Research Association, also has several roadmaps for smart factory, digital factory, virtual factory. This research agenda also you can check on their website, and the priorities for the period, for example, for the period between 2018 and 2020 included agile value networks, excellence in manufacturing, the human factors, sustainable value networks, interoperable platforms, etc. So Made in Europe is one of these partnerships that will be in the next framework program in Horizon Europe, and the calls will be published, and I assume they will be aligned with this strategic research agenda that has been also, I think, consulted in several projects and innovation actions. How to measure research innovation? What is efficient? So we are here talking about, okay, about key performance indicator. What can we use to measure how good are we in transferring research results? We have conceptualized this in, again, this is something from Atos, the process that we use internally. From the conception, we identified some of the problems, and I mentioned one of them, that projects are sometimes disconnected from sales, so they are very much academia oriented. This is also because of the duration of the projects. Sometimes they are 3-4 years, and people from sales, they cannot, or clients, they cannot really tell us 4 years times what will be interesting for them. Then we had the problem with that the units were very much project results driven, so it's the objective was to pass review and not to have the transfer of research results, etc. These problems with conception are then tried to be resolved in incubation, but we had other type of problems. We had problems of technology push, which is very often, especially in research-oriented institute or universities, that there are technology, there is a solution, but there is no problem for it. So we were sometimes said, okay, just do something that we really need on a short term. We had to work also on packaging, internal promotion, because there was some, as I said, some disconnection. And then we had these two stages of what I call latency and acceleration. And here we had a number of very short projects sponsored by internal departments to show it to clients. And also we have specific places inside the company where we can do these demos to clients. And in the last phase of acceleration, we are trying to have outside in pool of research results pool, and to use instruments. I mentioned the war shuttle previously. I will explain what do we mean by that, and to orient this specifically for clients. Okay. Yeah, so the one of the problems is that if we focus on short term or long term. This is a typical problem of exploration against exploitation, and in many projects there was too much focus on exploration and not on exploitation. One issue is how to fit the research results in a company strategy, and here again many solutions are possible. The problem is specific for Atos, but and for a large company. But I can imagine that also for small companies there are similar problems. I mentioned ecosystem, research and innovation ecosystem in Atos, and in building portfolio, the problems that we have were that the results of research projects were very often there is this research push, and we were not able to achieve the market pull. Not sufficiently. So in some cases we adopted the modular strategy that we can then reuse results and reuse it in several projects, and doing it kind of Lego approach, where we develop in each project one specific components to finally achieve full solutions through several external projects, but also sometimes internal projects. We generally adopt open source and standard-based approach because it is reducing the cost of maintenance. So for the sustainability, it is very important. Previously, I mentioned these three keywords. So one is desirability, that we assess with our salespeople and clients. The second one was feasibility. Of course, the modular approach is to reduce to have this feasibility, because if we can develop several modules in different projects, then we can deal with the feasibility. And the third is sustainability. If you have open source community working outside of company for maintenance, this is also why Fireware is so reliant on open source components, because there is not only Fireware community, but there are also other communities working on these open source components, and they are a guarantee for maintenance and sustainability. So these are a couple of these strategies that we took in our work, and then when definition of KPIs, we set up some of KPIs for each objective. One was to generate the assets from research projects and to improve their reuse, as well as to align with strategy. So now we have about 20% of the project that really contribute to strategy and that develop assets that we put in our catalog. To improve go-to-market, again, here we are setting something called shuttle that is going to the market. You will see some example later. I will give example from the same project that I mentioned before, from the MIDI. And then the KPI of kind of the percentage of results which is reused and matured in more projects, which is then returned to the either internal projects or innovation projects sponsored by the external entities. Okay, so to finalize this part, so research to market has to consider all of these components in and different alignment between project exploitation team and business development managers. So we have different roles that are some of them are more internal in the company, business development managers that should know about projects, but they usually don't have much time. Salespeople like to hear elevator pitch the same way that startup is doing it for investors. We are doing this kind of elevator pitches from the project exploitation team to salespeople and to what's called, at least was called until last year, innovation board. And then innovation board is listening to the elevator pitches and is deciding on the further investment or desirability. So this is again approach that we have in Atos. Might not work for a smaller company, but some kind of alignment of short-term, long-term goals of the internal strategy and project strategy is definitely needed. So we have to build project portfolio and to align it and to think in parallel with long-term on both on long-term and on short-term. This is also why I think the good strategy for a larger company is to have different lanes for different project results, to not only depending on TRL, technology readiness level, but also on MRL, market readiness level or market maturity level. Some of the components, again, are maybe more specific, more niche products, and some of components are more generic, and these generic components can be reused by taking them from the ecosystem, from Fiverr, from Apache Foundation. We use many from the Apache. Again, I will mention it later. This is a kind of which complicated roadmap that we use for alignment of analytical and strategic phase. I'll move a little bit faster through the slides because I have really a lot of slides. So transforming it into assets, research results. How do we do it? We have I said several 4 blocks. We have these shuttles. These are incubation units. So basically it is almost like internal startup. When we package some of this research result into shuttle, we are helping the shuttle to behave, to approach the salespeople, to approach clients, and to give all that it needs to hit the market too. Then we have technical assets that probably need, some of them we need maturation. Usually they are below TRL 6. They might need more projects to be matured, or they don't have market which is ready for them, or at least they are in our portfolio, but not so mature as shuttles. We have thematic offerings, deck of slides that we use for clients for presentation for specific areas, and we have consulting, innovation consulting, which are our R&D consultants. I mentioned what is shuttle, how it works. It's an incubator. We will see Masai later example, which is for manufacturing. It's a combination of mature assets with high TRL. We have the budget and internal investment. We're looking for them, and usually they already start with the client, at least with proof of concept, and we have dedicated people for them. This is for shuttle owners. We do this interview with people while they are still in the project. So they are some of them are still probably working as exploitation managers in projects, and we have this roadmap for shuttle owners. We have now 5. We had 6, but recently we merged 2. We have 5 shuttles, and one of them, Masai, I will present later as an example. How do we align the exploitation with portfolio exploitation paths in the projects with portfolio building? Again, there are various barriers and motivation that project partners might have different exploitation paths, and it's not easy to build joint exploitation path. And I really don't know many European projects that succeeded in building joint exploitation. And in Atos, we are having also the problems with establishing legal entities, joint legal entities. So we usually prefer to go for highly modular components that can be exploited individually. There are many other barriers, and all of you that participated in European projects might know problems of related to joint ownership or licensing problems, maintenance issues that I talked about, simplification and assumptions. Many of these project results are made in research laboratory with conditions with no high number of users, etc. So one way to do this prioritization is Innovation Radar. European Commission is using this. So again, this is methodology developed by Joint Research Center, and we sometimes receive from the Commission. Sometimes we do it by ourselves, kind of being proactive, and then say, okay, we have this asset which is has very high innovation readiness. It's basically, this methodology is basically about filling a questionnaire. There are a lot of questions for the 3 different areas: market potential, innovation readiness, and innovation management. And you fill in the questionnaires, and then you get kind of a picture about your asset and innovation potential. So again, the problem here is it's very subjective. So it depends on your, you get the results either from Commission or you can do it by yourself. If your asset is in exploration stage, if it is in optimization stage, creation or commitment. So these are 4 areas where they place this methodology. Particular methodology is placing different research results and placing the innovation readiness and innovation management indicators. Since they are based on your answers, they are very subjective. That means also that depending on perception of the owner of the research results, it might end up in one or another area, and this is also why we need internal innovation board, and we need this assessment also by salespeople, by different kind of people, and not only by the owner of research result. It depends also on the type of the company and how this innovation department is placed inside of the company. We have embedded innovation, we have the transition, which is a gradual transition from the R&D department to business unit. There are some companies that have continuous support and interaction between R&D and business units, and sometimes we have this technology push, as that I mentioned before. In collaborative R&D project, this is usually all mixed. You have all type of partners with different approaches. Some of them might have one type of a relationship between innovation and the rest of the company. Other companies have different. Usually, again, since this webinar is oriented for small and medium enterprises, usually there is no big gap between R&D and business units in a small and medium enterprise. However, again, alignment is needed, and it should be, especially because of the cost, should be aligned with what is the strategy of the company. So we use this approach: discover, validate, align, carefully picking up the research results and trying to align with this portfolio. I'm running series of discovery workshops with head of units and kind of owners of research results. This is a typical schedule for these workshops, and then we do this alignment. So the workshop is usually 1 hour or 45 minutes, and I mentioned the pitch session. We try to get these answers in very brief, a kind of Twitter-like conversation where to get insight what is the asset that is from the research projects, how, for who, and what would be impact on a company and on the market in general. A lot of the propositions for technology transfer, this is kind of summary slide. We have strategy and principles, play will the referee. I assume that in company there is always exploitation manager or somebody that can play a role of referee and decide, okay, this is our priority or no. A lot of actions to be done to reconcile technology push and business pull. The values that needs to be clear for research results. So what are the key results for users? So not for because it's more innovative, it is technology superior, but the key desirability from the user's perspective. how fast can it be brought to market, reliability, and cost efficiency. Okay, let's move to example. I'll try to be fast. I mentioned Masai, which is one of our shuttles. It started with core components from Fireware, context broker, and then it was relying on the standard, which is also from Fireware. And then it started to be developed in more projects and adding different features. It was Dockerized, compliant with Kubernetes, and it also included security API for authentication and access control. So it was built through a series of different modules coming from different projects. In the shuttle that came, as I said, from one single asset, which was on the edge, collecting data from the edge and transforming them in a different format. Starting from that, we built complete solution for interoperable platform for smart industries. So it is now being used in several clients. The projects that have been contributing to it were QNet, and here it was research results for device configuration and events reception notification that were built and added. Then MIDI project that was using the connectors, different connectors and gateways, and that were contributing to Masai. And then Audicus, which is a project co-founded by EIT Digital and contributed again by the gateway and connectivity with Siemens MindSphere. Siemens was one of the partners in the project. And all these projects contributed to the shuttle, which is then we had proof of concept with airport, with Mallorca Airport, with One Solutions, which is for monitoring of toilets, the different assets in airport toilets. And then we had another pilot in Madrid Airport, monitoring of other airport spaces, and especially of slots for airplane. And finally, in Malaga Airport, where the same shuttle was adapted, which in combination with another shuttle, Smart Vision shuttle, for monitoring through edge devices, monitoring the flow of passengers. There is another pilot, by the way, from the Masai. I don't know how much time I have to talk about Masai, but again, this is a kind of platform that is considering edge and fog computing and advanced distributed analytics. So it was considering from the start open source components and from different ecosystem. I mentioned Fireware, I mentioned MindSphere, for example, and it was using a full data-driven approach for implementing the solution. There was at some stage comparison between different initiatives or ecosystem, such as Fireware or Apache, and pro and cons of each of them. The standard APIs, for example, for accessing context information, or bringing standards, using standards for interchanging data. At the end, we used both of these components from both of these ecosystem, and we reduced significantly cost for developing full solution in shuttle. Now we have a project running projects with EIT Digital, which is testing and validating this platform Masai, but also bringing some stronger security by testing code inside and code verification of single components inside of Masai. Another example in this case is not shuttle. There is not something in incubation, but it is a combination of results of different cybersecurity projects. We have, for example, discussed, was also yesterday discussed by the digital industry platform in a conference that was about cybersecurity, the need for a real-time security assessment, risk assessment and security assessment, because the certification is static, is time is not continuous, and it's not in real time. So we try to build. We are still doing it. We are building a kind of number of assets that are related to real-time risk assessment and continuous risk assessment. This is related to our strategy of invisible security, which is stipulated in Atos journey. And as I said, we did the exercise from taking things from different projects. We have something that we work on called Cyber Risk Calculator, which is doing continuous risk assessment based on input from security information and event manager, and from other types of tools such as vulnerability scanning. And the idea is to bridge these gaps, not only to have the continuous and real-time risk assessment, but also to bridge the gap between decision makers, so the risk decision can be also based on impact, economic impact. Again, if possible, in real time, or at least in near real time. There are two components developed in project Cybervisor. Cybervisor.eu is a project about the cyber range platform, so it's for training, and you can register and get free training at this website. This platform is also doing a performance evaluator component and countermeasure simulator that will be used for the real-time risk assessment in a training scenario. So, as I said, the components are modular and can be plugged into this risk assessment calculator, but can be also used, such as in the example of Cybervisor, can be used with Cyber Edge platform for training, hands-on training, again, this is something that the project is about to finish, and this is something to be transferred to our portfolio. Okay, conclusions, and then we have some time for questions and answers. So we have, as I said, we are a large company. We have a large R&D department, so we experimented some improvements when we try to segment activities in different stages. We have assets with low TRL, we have assets with low MRL, so we have different lanes and different exploitation paths, roadmaps for this asset. We have also introduced acceleration with shuttles, acceleration for those most promising, close to the market assets that can be combined in single solution. Then the performance concept of R&D performance is difficult to define. You know that many academics they measure it in number of published papers or similar things. For us, it is the percentage of research results turned into assets, commercialized assets. We are also doing this annual revision of the model, so it is to be more agile. So it is not perfect, and it's never perfect. It has to be always improved. And one of the latest 2019, one of the latest changes is that we try to reconcile. We introduce what we call exploration portfolio, and this exploration portfolio are basically research results that might have long-term impact. So we are not presenting them to clients. We are this exploration portfolio is something that we internally try to mature and to reuse in other projects. But we have also a list of short-term shuttles and assets, exploitation assets that are ready to be presented. We tried methodologies, innovation radar is mentioned, but at the end we need to adapt you saw one big slides with a lot of different methodologies combined and used. There is no perfect methodology. I know many projects are using business model canvas. They are using different tools and parts of methodologies for, and I don't think there is a single winner. So the different methodologies could and should be combined to get with the best, to adapt it for the best one for each company. The alignment in EU project alignment with policies also must be should not be forgotten. And then for technology transfer, this stage gate model, so it is kind of innovation funnel, as well as speed lanes where you can manage different speeds for different assets or exploitation results. I think these are useful approaches to consider. And then finally, I finished with giving example of shuttle and example of asset, which is circa continuous risk assessment for cybersecurity. And here I will finish the presentation. This is the last slide, and you have my email here, so you can contact me.